Captain Hansel pressed his hands against the cold metal railing of the observation deck. His dark eyes stared at the blue and green planet spinning slowly below them. Earth looked so peaceful from up here. But Hansel knew better now. The humans had been lying to everyone for 50 years. Dr. Kim, what exactly are we looking at? Hansel asked the alien scientist standing next to him. Dr. Kim was from the Veltarian species. She had long purple tentacles instead of arms and big yellow eyes that could see things humans could not. Dr. Kim's tentacles moved nervously as she looked at her data tablet. The numbers on the screen made her feel scared. The humans have been lying to us for 50 years, Captain. These aren't the simple fusion reactors they told us about. These are quantum fold generators. They can bend space and time, Hansel felt. His stomach drop. Quantum fold technology was supposed to be impossible. Even the most advanced species in the galaxy had never figured out how to make it work. In this communication array, ... Dr. Kim continued, her voice getting quieter. It's instantaneous across galactic distances. They can talk to anyone, anywhere in the galaxy, with no delay at all. Down on Earth, Commander Jahan sat in a meeting room with other human officials. He wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service, and his face showed no emotion, even though he knew their secret was about to be discovered. Jahan had been preparing for this day for years. He knew the Council would eventually find out what humanity had been building. Sir, the Council ships are running deep scans of all our facilities, reported his assistant, a young woman named Soyoung. They're seeing everything. Jahan nodded slowly. I expected this. Send word to all research stations. Tell them to prepare for full disclosure. Back on the Council ship, Dr. Kim was still reading her scanner results. Her tentacles were shaking now. Captain, the manufacturing facility on Luna, ... It's completely automated. The machines are building other machines, and those machines are making themselves better and smarter. Hansel turned to look at her. That's impossible. Our best scientists say that kind of technology won't exist for another 1,000 years. That's what we thought too, Dr. Kim whispered. But the humans did it anyway. Far below on Earth, in a research station buried deep under the mountains of Korea, Dr. Minho worked at his computer. He was a small man with glasses and gray hair, but his mind was one of the sharpest in the galaxy. For 20 years, he had been building artificial intelligence systems that could think and learn like living beings. Dr. Minho didn't know that alien ships were scanning his laboratory right now. He was too focused on his work. The AI system he had created was running simulations of the entire galaxy, predicting what would happen in the future. Professor, said Young Hee, his research assistant. She was looking at a different computer screen. The Council ships are scanning everything. They know about our work. Young Hee was worried. No. She had spent 5 years helping Dr. Minho build these AI systems. If the Council found out what they could do, there would be serious trouble. Doctor? Minho stopped typing and looked up at her. His face was calm, but his eyes were serious. Then it begins, he said quietly. On the Council ship, more officers were arriving on the observation deck. They had heard about the incredible discoveries and wanted to see for themselves. Captain. Hansel watched as his crew members looked at the scanner data with shock and fear. How did we not know about this? Asked Lieutenant Kortek, a reptilian officer from the Zephyrian system. We've been watching Earth for decades. The humans are very good at hiding things, Dr. Kim answered. They showed us exactly what they wanted us to see. Simple technology, basic weapons, peaceful intentions. But underneath they were building something much more advanced. Hansel felt angry and impressed at the same time. The humans had outsmarted the entire Galactic Council. They had pretended to be a young, simple species while secretly developing technology that was centuries ahead of everyone else. What else have they been hiding? Saul asked. Dr. Kim looked at her scanner again. Their cities are powered by microfusion reactors that shouldn't exist. Their transportation system uses gravity manipulation for their medical technology. She paused. Captain, they can regrow entire organs. They've essentially solved death from disease and injury. Back on Earth, Dr. Minho was saving all his research files to secure storage. He knew the Council would demand to see everything soon. Young Hee helped him copy years of work onto Quantum. Storage devices. Do you think they'll ban us from the galaxy? Yunki asked. Dr. Minho smiled sadly. They'll try, but it's too late now. Our technology is already spreading. Other species have been using our innovations without even knowing where they came from. The galaxy has changed, and there's no going back. The truth was finally coming out. Humanity had been quietly revolutionizing galactic civilization for 50 years. Now, the Council had to decide what to do about it. But as Dr. Minho had said, it might already be too late to stop what had been set in motion. The quiet revolution was about to become very loud indeed. The great council chamber was filled with angry voices. Representatives from dozens of different alien species were shouting at each other. The huge dome-shaped room that usually hosted calm discussions was now a place of chaos and fear. Counselor Thek stood at his speaking platform, his green scales shining under the bright lights. He was from the Dreknary species, known for their fierce temper and strong sense of honor. Large fist hit the metal podium so hard it made a loud bang that echoed through the chamber. They've been playing us for fools. Dex roared, his voice carrying across the entire room. While we treated them as a developing species, they've been building an empire behind our backs. Other representatives joined in the angry chorus. The bird-like Avrathi flapped their wings in distress. The crystal-bodied silicates hummed with high-pitched sounds that meant they were upset. Even the usually calm ethereals were glowing with red light, showing their anger. Ambassador Sung Min stood alone at the human delegation platform. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair, wearing the formal blue robes of Earth's diplomatic service. Around him, hundreds of alien representatives were calling for his species to be punished. His years of diplomatic training had taught him how to handle many difficult situations, but nothing had prepared him for this complete breakdown of relations. Honored representatives, Sung Min tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out by the angry crowd. Silence, shouted Council Prime Zargoth from the highest platform. The massive alien leader had forearms and skin that changed colors based on his emotions. Right now, his skin was dark red with anger. The human delegation will remain quiet during this emergency session. Sung Min felt helpless. For 50 years, he had worked to build friendship between humanity and the other species. Now, all of that work was falling apart in a single day. Emergency vote is called, Council Prime Zargoth declared. His voice was amplified throughout the chamber and broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy, all in favor of immediate quarantine and expulsion of the human species from Council space. The voting began immediately. Species after species cast their votes. The Draknari voted yes. Yavrathi voted yes. The Silicates voted yes. One by one, the lights on the great voting board turned red, meaning yes to the ban. Sung Min watched in horror as his people were being cast out of galactic civilization. Only 3 species abstained from voting: peaceful Mentari, the mysterious Voidwalkers, and surprisingly, the warlike Krogans refused to vote either way. When the final vote was counted, the result was clear. Humanity was banned from Council space by an overwhelming majority, far away on Earth. President Dohai sat in the emergency bunker deep beneath the city of Seoul. The underground facility was built to protect the government during wars. But now, it was being used to handle a different kind of crisis. The concrete walls were lined with screens showing news from across the galaxy. President Dohai was a strong woman who had led Earth through many difficult times. She wore a simple black suit and had short gray hair. Her face showed no emotion as she watched the council vote end. General Boyram stood at attention beside her desk, was the head of Earth's military forces, and had been her advisor for 10 years. His uniform was perfectly pressed and his expression was serious. "Ma'am, the communication from the council is coming through now," General Boyram reported. The large screen on the wall showed Council Prime Zargoth delivering the final decision. The human species has 72 hours to evacuate all Council space. Any human found in Council territory after that time will be arrested and imprisoned. Closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was calm and steady. "They've given us 72 hours. All human citizens must evacuate Council space immediately. Dr. Kung Su, the head of the Department of Galactic Affairs, stepped forward. He was a thin man with nervous eyes who had spent his whole career studying alien cultures. "Ma'am, we have approximately 12 million citizens scattered across 400 worlds. Evacuation is impossible in that time frame." The president looked at the star map on her desk. Red dots showed where human colonies and citizens were located throughout the galaxy. There were so many of them, spread across such vast distances. "Then we implement Protocol 7, President Dahai said quietly. Protocol 7 was the emergency plan for what to do if humanity was ever cut off from Earth. It had been created years ago, but no one had ever expected to use it. "Send the signal to all human colonies," she continued. "They're on their own. Now, within minutes." The coded message was transmitted across the galaxy using humanity's secret quantum communication network. The message was simple, but devastating. "Council has banned humanity. Evacuation impossible. Activate independence protocols." On the mining colony of Vega Prime, Su-Jin was working in the control center when the message arrived. She was a mining engineer who had lived on the colony for 8 years. The message appeared on her personal communicator, and when she read it, she felt her heart sink. Su-Jin walked to the observation window and looked out at the colony's central garden. Her daughter, Hyo-jin, was playing there with her friends. Some of the children were human, but others were young aliens from different species. They were laughing and running together, not knowing that their peaceful world was about to change forever. Hyo-jin was only 7 years old. This was the only home she had ever known. Now Su-Jin had to tell her daughter that they could never return to Earth and that the galaxy no longer wanted them. The emergency ban had been passed. Humanity was now officially exiled from galactic civilization. But as Su-Jin watched the children play, she wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake that would change everything. 3 weeks had passed since the Council banned humanity from the galaxy. At first, everything seemed normal. The alien species celebrated their decision and believed they had solved their problem. But then, strange things started happening. Dr. Zekdar was having the worst day of his career. He stood in the medical station that orbited the star Proxima Centauri. Staring at control panels that made no sense to him, the reptilian doctor had 4 arms, which usually made him very good at operating complex equipment. But today all 4 arms were shaking with frustration. "Computer-run diagnostic on life support system 7, Dr. Zekdar said in his hissing voice. The computer responded with a series of beeps and flashing red lights. "Error. Quantum stabilization matrix requires manual recalibration. Please contact authorized technician," Dr. Zekdar wanted to scream. For 5 years, a human technician named Dongwu had maintained all the medical equipment on the station. Dongwu was a quiet man who always smiled and fixed problems before anyone even noticed them. When the ban was announced, Dongwu had been forced to leave with only 12 hours' notice. "I don't understand these human modifications," Dr. Zekdar muttered to himself, his forearms working frantically over the control panels. Why would they redesign perfectly functional systems? But the truth was, the systems weren't perfectly functional before Dongwu arrived. The human engineer had quietly improved everything, making the medical equipment work better and safer. Now, without his expertise, quantum-stabilized medical equipment was shutting down one machine at a time. In the main medical bay, patients were starting to worry. The healing chambers that could fix broken bones in hours were no longer working. The disease scanners that could detect illness before symptoms appeared were giving error messages. Dr. Zekdar realized with growing horror that people might start dying if he couldn't fix these problems. Far away, on the trade hub of Kepler-4 for to be, station manager Velanoth was facing his own crisis. Velanoth was a tall, blue-skinned alien with 3 eyes who had managed the busy trading station for 15 years. He had always been proud of how smoothly his station operated. Ships came and went like clockwork, carrying goods between 17 different star systems, but now chaos ruled his station. The main cargo bay was filled with confused alien workers who didn't know what to do. Ships were arriving faster than they could be processed, and the automated systems that usually handled everything were completely broken. "Sir," his assistant reported, running up to him with a worried expression. "We have over 3,000 ships backed up in the outer system. The automated routing is completely down." Velanoth felt sick. A human company called Stellar Logistics had been managing cargo distribution for the past decade. They had created computer programs that could track millions of packages, schedule ship arrivals, and route cargo to the right destinations. The system was so good that Velanoth had barely needed to think about it. But when the ban was announced, all the human workers were forced to leave. They took their computer programs and their knowledge with them. Now, without the intricate scheduling, algorithms that kept goods flowing smoothly, the entire trade network was falling apart. "How long until we can get the old system working again?" Velanoth asked. His assistant looked embarrassed. "Sir, we don't have the old system anymore. The humans replaced it years ago. We would need to rebuild everything from scratch." In a hidden facility in the asteroid belt, economic analyst Tae Young sat at her computer, watching the galaxy's economy collapse in real time. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind for mathematics. Officially, she didn't exist anymore. The Council had banned all humans from their space, but Tae Young had found a way to stay hidden. Her secret facility was built inside a large asteroid, invisible to most scanners. She had been working there for 2 years, studying galactic economic patterns and building mathematical models that could predict what would happen in different situations. The Council thought they could simply remove us. She transmitted to her team through encrypted channels. They never realized how deeply integrated we'd become. Her computer screens showed graphs and charts that painted a grim picture. Trade between star systems was down by 60%. Medical facilities were reporting equipment failures across the galaxy. Manufacturing output was dropping every day. Taeyong's models had predicted this exact scenario. She had tried to warn the human government. What would happen if they were ever banned from the galaxy? But no one had listened. They thought the aliens could manage without human help. On the industrial world of Gliese 667c, the power grid was experiencing cascading failures. The planet was covered with massive factories that produced everything from computers to starships. These factories needed enormous amounts of power to operate, and the fusion reactors that provided that power were incredibly complex. Factory Supervisor Cathara was an insect-like alien with compound eyes and 6 legs. She had worked in the factories for 20 years and had never seen anything like what was happening now. One by one, the power plants were shutting down. She couldn't figure out why. Before the ban, a human engineer named Jia-hoon had maintained the quantum resonance stabilizers that kept the fusion reactors operating efficiently. Jia-hoon had warned them about this possibility before his evacuation. But his replacement couldn't understand the complex systems he had created. How did we become so dependent on them? Cathara wondered aloud as she watched another production line shut down. The answer was simple, but terrifying. For 50 years, humans had been quietly improving everything they touched. It made medical equipment work better, trade networks run smoother, and power systems operate more efficiently. The aliens had gotten so used to these improvements that they forgot how things worked before. Now, as the human innovations failed one by one, the galaxy was beginning to understand what they had lost. The ripple effect was just beginning, and it would only get worse. 6 months had passed since the Council banned humanity from the galaxy. What started as small problems had grown into a disaster that no one could ignore. The great galactic civilization that had taken thousands of years to build was falling. A part Council Prime Zergal stood at the center of the emergency assembly hall, looking older than his 800 years. His skin, which usually glowed with confidence, was now dull and gray. The massive alien leader had called this meeting because he could no longer hide the truth from the other species. "Honored representatives," Zergal began, his voice shaking slightly. "The situation has become challenging. 17 member worlds have reported critical infrastructure failures. Food distribution to 43 systems has been disrupted. Assembly Hall was filled with worried aliens from dozens of different species. They had all come to hear what their leader would say about the growing crisis. Some were angry, others were scared, But all of them knew that something had gone terribly wrong. How challenging? Asked Counselor Thex, the same Draknari who had demanded the human ban 6 months earlier. His green scales were now pale with worry. Zergal looked down at his datapad. Medical facilities on 112 worlds are operating at less than 50% capacity. Trade between systems has dropped by 70%. And ... He paused, not wanting to say the next part. Food shortages have begun on 37 worlds. Far away from the council chambers, in a secret location in the Trappist star system, Admiral One-Ho sat in his command center. The human officer was a tall man with steel-gray hair and calm eyes. Around him, screens showed information from across. The Galaxy One-Ho was in charge of New Sol, a hidden human colony that had been built in complete secrecy. While the Council thought all humans had been expelled from their space, thousands of them were actually living and working in hidden facilities like this one. Admiral said Intelligence Chief Thagin, walking up to his desk. She was a young woman with short black hair and the quick movements of someone who processed information very fast. The reports are coming in from our network. The situation is getting worse. One who nodded. Show me. The Jinn activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked places where systems were failing. There were so many red dots that the galaxy looked like it was bleeding. They're starting to break ranks, the Jinn reported. The Altarians have sent a secret delegation requesting technical assistance. The Tau Setians are offering to withdraw from the Council if we'll restore their medical systems. Wen-Ho smiled grimly. What about the others? The Vegan Collective is desperately trying to fix their power grids. The Andromedans are facing starvation on their agricultural worlds. Even the proud Draknari are quietly asking for help through back channels. On the Council world of Vega Station, the situation had become desperate. The streets that were usually filled with peaceful citizens going about their daily business were now chaotic scenes of anger and fear. Aliens of different species were fighting over food, medicine, and other basic supplies. Council Security Chief Borman stood on the steps of the government building. Watching smoke rise from fires across the city, he was a large armored creature with 4 arms and natural body armor that could stop most weapons. But even he felt helpless against the riots that had broken out. Sir, his aide said, running up to him with a worried expression. The food distribution center on level 7 has been overrun. The crowds are demanding to know why there's no food.
Oh.
Berman felt a deep sadness. The human agricultural specialists who had optimized crop yields for the past 20 years were gone. The aliens who had replaced them didn't understand the complex systems the humans had created. Now, the farming worlds that had once produced enough food for billions were barely producing enough to feed their own populations. How did we not know? Berman asked his aide. How did they become so essential without us realizing? The answer was simple but painful. The humans had been so quiet about their improvements that most aliens hadn't noticed. They had simply made everything work better, little by little, year by year. Only now that they were gone did everyone realize how much they had been doing in deep space. Far from any star system, Dr. Hae-Young worked in her mobile laboratory ship. The vessel was designed to look like a simple cargo freighter, but inside it was filled with the most advanced scientific equipment in the galaxy. Dr. Hae-Young was a brilliant scientist who had been forced to work in secret since the ban. Her assistant Minsu was a young man who had volunteered to stay in exile to help with the research. He handed her a communication device that was buzzing with messages. Doctor, we're receiving requests from 17 different species, Minsu said. They all want our help with their failing systems. Dr. Hae-Young smiled as she read the messages. The same species that had voted to ban humanity 6 months ago were now begging for human help. But she and her team had never stopped working. They had continued their research in secret, and their innovations were now being quietly adopted by desperate alien governments. The Council banned us from their space, she said to Minsu, but they couldn't ban our ideas. And ideas once released are impossible to contain. The most embarrassing failure came when the Council's own administrative systems began crashing. The efficiency protocols that had been gradually implemented over the past decade were revealed to be human-designed improvements. The computers that managed galactic law, the communication networks that connected different worlds, even the voting systems used in the council chambers. All of them had been quietly improved by human technicians. Without human technicians, to maintain them, the very government that had banned humanity was grinding to a halt. Council meetings were being delayed because the computers couldn't process the data. Laws were being lost because the filing systems were crashing. Communication between worlds was becoming unreliable. The galaxy was learning a harsh lesson. Cannot simply remove the people who make your civilization work and expect everything to continue as before. The humans had become so integrated into galactic society that removing them was like trying to remove the foundation from under a building. The unraveling had begun, and there was no way to stop it. 1 year had passed since the council banned humanity from the galaxy. But the galaxy that existed now was completely different from the one that had made that decision. Everything had changed, and there was no going back to the old ways. President Dahai stood in the command center of her new capital ship, looking out at the stars through a massive window. The ship was orbiting the planet Kepler 438b, which had become the headquarters of something that would have been impossible a year ago. Around her, ambassadors from dozens of different alien species were talking and working together in ways that had never happened before. The old ways of thinking are finished, President Dahai said to the assembled crowd. Her voice was calm but strong, and every being in the room listened carefully to her words. We're not seeking dominance over anyone. We're offering partnership with everyone. The room was filled with representatives from species that had once been enemies or had never spoken to each other. Galactic Council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was now just a memory. In its place was something new called the Interstellar Cooperation Network, or ICN. Unlike the old council, which had strict rules and slow decision-making, the ICN was designed to be flexible and fast. Ambassador Sung Min stood near the president, watching the historic moment unfold. A year ago, he had been alone and humiliated when the council voted to ban humanity. Now, he was the first Secretary General of the ICN, and species from across the galaxy were asking to join the organization that humans had helped create. The Altarians were first, Sung Min said quietly to his assistant. They joined us just 3 months after the ban. Then came the Tau Setians, then the Vegan Collective. Now we have over 60 species in the network. The assistant nodded, and more are asking to join every day. The Krogans sent a delegation yesterday. Even some of the peaceful Mentari are interested. Far away, on the world that had once been the Council's capital, the situation was very different. The grand buildings that had once housed the most powerful government in the galaxy were now half empty. Many of the offices were dark, and the few remaining workers moved through the halls like ghosts. Councillor Vex sat in his office, staring at reports that brought only bad news. The same Draknari who had demanded the human ban was now watching his civilization crumble. Every day, more species announced they were leaving the council to join the ICN. His empire was falling apart, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. We can still salvage this, Dex said to his few remaining supporters during their daily meeting. His voice was desperate, and his green scales had lost their healthy shine. The humans are just another species. We can develop our own technologies to replace what we lost. But his advisors looked defeated. They had been trying to rebuild their systems for months, but it was impossible. The humans had improved so many things over the years that removing them had broken everything. Food production was still failing. Medical equipment was still breaking down. Transportation between worlds was still unreliable. Sir, one of his advisors said quietly, the Zephyrians announced this morning that they're joining the ICN. That leaves us with only 12 member species. Dex felt his heart sink. The Zephyrians had been one of the Council's most loyal members for centuries. If they were leaving, then the Council was truly finished. But it was too late for regrets. The galaxy had tasted the efficiency and innovation that human ingenuity brought to every system they touched. The choice was clear: adapt to the new reality or be left behind in the past. Dr. Minho was having the time of his life. The elderly scientist who had once worked in secret laboratories was now the ICN's chief technology officer. He worked in a massive research facility where humans and aliens collaborated on projects that would have been impossible under the old Council's rigid rules. "Look at this," Dr. Minho said to his assistant, Young Hee, as they watched a test in the main laboratory. A team of human and alien scientists was working together to test a new form of instantaneous transportation. The device could move objects across vast distances in seconds, not years. Young Hee, who was now the director of the new Galactic Innovation Initiative, smiled as she watched the successful test. "The Council thought they were protecting the galaxy from us," she observed. "They never realized they were protecting the galaxy from progress itself." The laboratory was filled with amazing inventions. Medical devices that could heal injuries instantly, communication systems that connected the entire galaxy, manufacturing equipment that could build anything from raw materials. Innovations came from humans and aliens working together, sharing their knowledge and ideas. The final irony came when the remnants of the original Council formally requested membership in the ICN. The same beings who had voted to ban humanity were now asking to join the organization that humans had created. The humans they had tried to remove from the galaxy now held the keys to galactic civilization's future. Captain Hansel, who had first discovered the scope of human capabilities, now served as a liaison officer in the new government. He spent his days helping different species understand each other and work together. As he walked through the orbital gardens of New Geneva Station, he watched human and alien children playing together, learning from each other, and building friendships that would last a lifetime. "They didn't conquer us," Hansel said to his old friend, Dr. Kim, as they watched the children play. "They simply showed us what we could become." Dr. Kim nodded, her tentacles moving in a gesture of agreement. The Council was so afraid of change that they tried to stop it. But change is the only constant in the universe. Yes! The humans just helped us change faster and better. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. You cannot stop progress by banning the people who bring it. Ideas and innovations cannot be contained by laws or borders. The humans had been banned from Council space, but their influence had spread anyway, carried by the people whose lives they had improved. The new reality was better than the old one. The galaxy was more connected, more efficient, and more innovative than it had ever been. The Council's attempt to preserve the old ways had instead accelerated the creation of something entirely new. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force or deception. They had simply shown everyone what was possible when different species worked together instead of apart. The ban that was supposed to protect the galaxy had instead freed it to become something better. The consequences of the Council's decision were clear. By trying to stop change, they had guaranteed that change would come faster and more completely than anyone had imagined. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed.